Hi, you're watching Dante's Boxing Nation. Woo!
Yes, sir. Dante's Boxing Nation. I'm checking out all the fans over here at the Mayweather gym.
Mexicali, brother.
Now, where you guys come from? Where you guys?
Mexicali, Baja California.
Mexicali, California. There you go. That's what's up. And you drove all the way out here to come to the Mayweather gym?
600 miles.
So you think that Floyd? So what do you think about Floyd Mayweather? Is he the best fighter of this era right now, or what?
He's the best right now at 154, 147. Anybody.
Yeah.
Everybody that wants to fight him just talks, but they don't fight him.
Yeah.
And, you know, look, I mean, we're from Mexico. Look what Canelo did.
Yeah.
Couldn't handle it, man. And Floyd stood right there. There, he got respect from Mexican fans.
I heard
stood
that.
Stood up and fight, and Canelo couldn't answer him.
Dante's Boxing Nation, what's going on, guys? So even with Floyd Mayweather being retired for years, he's still receiving the biggest accolades in the sport of boxing because he was just crowned the fighter of the decade by the Boxing Writers Association of America. Now, it's not surprising at all because ESPN and BoxRec.com has already crowned him as the greatest fighter of all time. Now, what makes that extremely significant is these organizations have never been big fans of Floyd Mayweather. So for you to get ESPN or BoxingRec.com to say something like that, that's really big. I mean, we can go over Floyd Mayweather's entire career, but I think just naming a couple of the fights that were extremely significant. I mean, the Manny Pacquiao fight alone was considered the fight of the century. So once again, of course, if he wins the fight of the century, he's going to get fighter of the decade. It's very important to note that when Floyd Mayweather fought against Manny Pacquiao, Pacquiao was considered pound for pound top 3, one of the best fighters in the world. So when you say that he was old and he was faded, it doesn't really add up or make any sense. And it really doesn't add up when you think about the fact that after Floyd Mayweather beat Manny Pacquiao pulled off one of his best performances, beating Tim Bradley in a rubber match, which all of the Manny Pacquiao fans said that the young Manny Pacquiao is back. You know, this is vintage Manny Pacquiao, etc., etc. It was always this way. When he fought against Floyd Mayweather, they would say he was old. But when he fought against Keith Thurman or he fought against Tim Bradley, this was the best Manny Pacquiao. You can't have it both ways. You know, when you think of someone that's old past their prime, 9 times out of 10, they're not going to be considered pound for pound one of the best fighters in the world. I mean, because in the sport of football, if there's a football team that's considered the #1 seed or the #2 seed, that ranking doesn't change because the age of the quarterback or the age of anyone else on the team, right? So the same thing applies when it comes to boxing. But because boxing is a very emotionally attached sport that's driven by race and pride and nationality, you're going to have people that have to make these excuses to make the pain feel better when they don't get the results that they want. So once again, going back to the Manny Pacquiao win, you know what's really interesting about the whole Manny Pacquiao situation is the better Manny Pacquiao does today, the better that makes Manny Pacquiao look and the better it makes Floyd Mayweather look. I mean, do you know how impressive that looks? That a 30-year-old Keith Thurman could not beat a Manny Pacquiao that was 4 to 5 years older than he was when he lost to Floyd Mayweather. So while Keith Thurman was almost 10 years younger than Manny Pacquiao, Floyd was actually older than Pacquiao when he beat him, and he completely dominated him. Speaking of dominating, he also dominated the very talented Canelo Alvarez. I think it's kind of funny how, once again, these fans, they will say that Manny Pacquiao was too old, but then turn around and say that Canelo Alvarez was too young. First of all, there's no such thing as being too young, especially when you're a champion, and Canelo Alvarez had just beat an undefeated champion in Austin Trout. But we could take it way further than that. You have champions like Mike Tyson. Mike Tyson was a champion at age 21. Mike Tyson was the most feared fighter in the sport of boxing at age 21. Felix Tito Trinidad, he was a champion at age 17. So to say that Canelo Alvarez was too young at 23 when he was a champion sounds completely ridiculous. But once again, that's what these Canelo fans and Floyd Mayweather detractors have to do to ease the pain. They have to use these ridiculous excuses that make no sense at all. And, you know, this right here will completely shut down any notion of using the age excuse. All you have to do, if you ever hear someone use that excuse, all you have to do is ask them this question. Let's reverse the roles. Let's say it was Floyd Mayweather that was 23. It was Floyd Mayweather that was naturally bigger than Canelo. He's at a higher weight class, he's naturally stronger, and he's 23 years old, 14 to 15 years younger, and he's fighting against a 36, 37-year-old Canelo Alvarez. A Canelo that has already moved up 5 weight classes. Now he has to move up another weight class to fight the very talented, very gifted 23-year-old Floyd Mayweather. And let's just remember for a second, when we think of the 23-year-old Floyd Mayweather, we're talking about pretty boy. Floyd Mayweather used to knock out the majority of his opponents when he was in the smaller weight classes. The reason why a lot of those knockouts stopped, because he moved up so many weight classes. He was fighting against guys 15, 20 pounds bigger than him, like he did when he fought against Canelo Alvarez. So my question to you fans is, who would have won that fight if we were talking about the Floyd, a 23-year-old Floyd, naturally bigger, at a higher weight class, versus a smaller, older Canelo Alvarez? Who wins that fight? You guys know who will win that fight. In fact, under those circumstances, if Floyd was really trying to pursue a Canelo Alvarez fight, fans would be criticizing Floyd, accusing him of cherry picking, saying, why are you picking on the old Canelo? He's smaller, he's this, he's older, etc., etc., etc. We know this is what they would say. So if Floyd was in Canelo's shoes, it would be an even easier win for Floyd Mayweather. But once again, when you're on a coincidental list, they'll say that the guy that's older and smaller is the guy that has all of the advantages. We know what time it is at the end of the day. Something else that doesn't make sense. Did you guys know that Manny Pacquiao was offered a Canelo fight twice? For big money, by the way. He was offered a Canelo fight, twice, and Manny Pacquiao turned the offer down every single time. Now think about this. If Canelo was too young and too inexperienced, wouldn't you think that Manny Pacquiao would jump to fighting Canelo? He would, right? But he knew that that would be an extremely dangerous fight because of the skill and because of the natural size of a Canelo Alvarez, right? There is no one right now that has pulled off the type of win that Floyd Mayweather has pulled off against Canelo. A fighter that talented, that gifted, and did it in their late 30s. This is the reason why Floyd Mayweather and no one else was crowned fighter of the decade. For him to once again beat someone like a Canelo Alvarez and completely dominate him, when to this day, nobody has gotten in the ring with Canelo Alvarez and came close to doing what Floyd Mayweather has done. Nobody did it with that type of ease. No one has done it. I mean, you have all these Canelo Alvarez fans that keep posting these comments in my videos saying that Canelo is only doing the same things that Floyd Mayweather did. Do you guys realize that when you say something like that, you're admitting the reason why you never liked Floyd Mayweather was because you were a racist? Because if you're saying that they're doing the same thing and you like when Canelo does it, but you don't like when the black guy does it, what else could it mean? And the reason why I mention this, because the link that was sent to me on this story of Floyd Mayweather being considered the fighter of the decade, the article was written by a Mexican writer, and he was, of course, bashing Floyd Mayweather, and then he says, why couldn't Canelo get it? They should have gave Canelo the fighter of the decade. Now, guys, I could spend an hour unpacking this whole situation with nothing but facts, but I'm gonna keep it brief. I'm gonna wrap this video up in a little bit because I gotta take care of some more business. But if you're comparing Canelo Alvarez to Floyd Mayweather, The thing that we know about Floyd Mayweather, in almost all of his biggest fights, he won with no controversy. When he beat Canelo, he beat him decisively. When he beat Manny Pacquiao, he beat him decisively. When he beat Shane Mosley, who was considered the #1 seed in the division, because he had just beat the #1 welterweight, which is Antonio Margarito. Remember, things are structured like a tournament. Shane Mosley, he knocked Margarito out of the tournament, and then he ended up fighting Floyd Mayweather in the gold medal match. And we know what happened from there. So once again, since Canelo fans love to compare Floyd to Canelo, when it comes to Canelo Alvarez, in almost all of his most significant wins, they were all considered controversial. Both of his wins against Golovkin were considered controversial. When he beat Erislandy Lara, it was considered controversial. There was controversy when he beat Austin Trout. And then you have his biggest fight against Floyd Mayweather, which is a fight that he actually lost. The only real significant fight that Canelo Alvarez won with no controversy, in my opinion, is against Danny Jacobs. And then you mix in the fact that now you have a Canelo Alvarez that is never willing to fight the best fighters in any division that he campaigns at. How could he be considered fighter of the decade? Especially when you have almost every great Mexican fighter that is criticizing Canelo Alvarez the same way boxing fans are criticizing him. There is absolutely no way Canelo Alvarez can be fighting at 160 with all of these undefeated champions. He decides to just vacate, give up his belt to avoid one champion in Jamal Charlo, and then just completely comes out and says, I'm not fighting the other champion because I don't like his style. There's no way he's going to get fighter of the decade or even be considered with moves like that. Now, it would be different if he gave up his belt because he was trying to get a bigger fight than facing a mandatory that wasn't worth fighting, that nobody wanted to see him fight. That would be a different situation. But when it comes to Canelo, Canelo will turn down the big dangerous opponent that's considered a big fight just to fight weaker opposition. Like I said, by way of contrast, when Floyd fought Shane Mosley, Floyd was considered the #1 welterweight in the world. And even Jim Lampley said it. As Mosley was knocking Margarito out, Jim Lampley, I'll never forget it, he yelled out, Mosley is trying to become the #1 best welterweight in the world. And if he knocks out Margarito, that's exactly what he will be. And that's exactly what he did. When Floyd Mayweather fought Manny Pacquiao, once again, Manny Pacquiao was considered pound for pound. Some people had him at #2, some people had him at #3. I mean, and if you really think about this to really understand how significant that is, that's equivalent to a fighter today fighting someone on the top 3 pound for pound list and beating him decisively. Like beating a Lomachenko, beating a Crawford, beating someone like that decisively. This is pretty much what Floyd Mayweather did when he beat Manny Pacquiao. But we're not seeing Canelo Alvarez go after the #1 middleweight, the #1 super middleweight, the #1 light heavyweight. So there's absolutely no way he can be considered the fighter of the decade. That crown could only go to Floyd Mayweather because, once again, there is no fighter that has wins as significant as Floyd Mayweather does. Now, I know, once again, this is going to upset a whole lot of Canelo Alvarez fans, but once again, man, I know the truth is like kryptonite to you, and you can't deal with it. But that's what you're going to get if you continue to watch this channel. Nothing that I said didn't make sense. It's all logical facts. Then I'll close out with saying this. I don't think we're going to see too many fighters in their late 30s dominating 23-year-old undefeated champions at higher weight classes. That's something that you will seldomly see in the sport of boxing. It takes a very special fighter to beat fighters on that level. That's all I got for now, guys. I'm on to the next one.